What is up, YouTube? Today on the Raiders Rundown, we're going to break down a lot of stuff for you, including all the free agent signings, all their contracts. A lot of these guys have barely had their contract details released recently. And we're also going to give you an update on spring training, optional training activities. What is the schedule? It's finally been released. And also, Duran Harmon, funny story happening with him and facial recognition technology that we'll tell you a little bit later. And also, the new rules in the NFL. They're changing overtime rules, and we'll give you our thoughts on that in general. But first, I want to talk about two contracts that I did not include on here, and that is Brandon Bolden, the running back, and Jacob Johnson, the fullback. Now, Brandon Bolden has a 2-year deal at $5 million. So he's making roughly $2.5 million a year, and the first year has guaranteed money. The second year does not, so we can move on from him next year. Now, Jacob Johnson is going to make roughly $1 million a year, so that's a lot cheaper than Alec Ingold. I was sad to see Alec Ingold go, but he is going to be a lot more expensive than somebody like Jacob Johnson. Let's first get started with his contract. Davante Adams, this is the steal. I think it's a steal. Some people are saying, oh, you gave up a first round and a second round for Davante Adams. You shouldn't have done that, Raiders. Well, guess what? I think it's a pretty good deal for a solid receiver that has some chemistry with Derek Carr. Not to mention that Mark Davis finally did the right thing in terms of the contract. He finally structured the contract in a way where we could save a lot of cap space. And you see that right here, $8 million cap hit this year. That's amazing. I mean, Davante Adams was on a $19 million franchise tag with the Green Bay Packers, so he would have cost the Green Bay Packers $19 million against the cap in 2022. We, fortunately, are able to work out a deal, structure it in a certain way where there you have it, $8 million this year against the cap. Got some dead money there, right? And to be honest, this is like a 3-year contract. We could get out of it. After 3 years, you would save money because there's going to be pretty much no dead money with the contract. So it's a good deal. I mean, 3 years, is Davante Adams going to be a top 1, top 2 receiver in the NFL? Yes. In the next 3 years, he is still going to produce like he has recently. Over 100 receptions almost every single year. 1,600 yards last year. That's insane. Double-digit TDs in 2020. I mean, me and co-host Hotspot Audrey are like, 2020, this dude had 20 TDs. Like, that is insane. That is absolutely insane. And obviously, he has a great size. And look, oh, he's in his 30s. Well, guess what? He's technically still in his 20s. He's 29 years old. Derek Carr, though, however, is 31 years old now. But I think they'll have a great connection. And, hey, Ziegler, McDaniels, let's get the Derek Carr deal done. Maybe extend him for 3 years as well. Have the Davante Derek Carr show for the next 3 years. I think Raider Nation will be happy about that. Are we going to be happy? Will we be happy about that? Yes, I think we will. And we also have Demarcus Robinson, somebody who could possibly be the number 2 wide receiver who's going to have a deep competition with Bryan Edwards. And Bryan Edwards, look, he hasn't played that much due to injury, but I think he's still a solid receiver, very talented, can make those contested catches. Demarcus Robinson, though, one thing I really like about him is he's able to break tackles. I was watching some film on him, and the way he runs after the catch, the way he's able to shift his body in certain ways, taking a short pass, turning into something, it is really impressive. It's really impressive to see, and hopefully he could recreate that in Las Vegas. But he'll be making $1 million against the cap this year, with $427,000 of it dead money. So not quite a fully guaranteed deal, and not quite a deal that is so expensive where you don't release this guy if you think he's not up to speed, right? And that happens a lot. Sometimes you invest in somebody, it doesn't work out. Maybe the other side doesn't like the amount of playing time they're going to get, and then you part ways. So this isn't a type of deal where we're investing so much in Demarcus Robinson where he's for sure going to be on the 53. I mean, I think he will be on the 53, but I'm just saying this is a really cheap deal, and I actually thought it was going to be more expensive, and I've seen a lot of Chiefs fans say, wow, I wish we would have kept him if it was going to be that cheap. So, I mean, Ziegler and McDaniels did some good work there. That's for damn sure. And Anthony Everett signed a 1-year deal with us. $4 million, we saw that. $3 million of it is guaranteed, 3.3. I was saying that I think, unlike Demarcus Robinson, I think this is so much money where this guy is probably going to start. To me, this is starting money. And $500,000 per game, roster bonuses and stuff like that. This guy could end up making a significant amount of money, especially if he gets some playing time. And we are already guaranteeing him $3.3 million. So he'll definitely be on the 53-man roster. And for him to be a backup with this much money guaranteed, I just kind of find that a stretch, and that would be kind of weird to me, and I don't think that's Patrick Graham and Dave Ziegler's intention with this move. So expect Anthony Everett to be a favorite to start, and we'll obviously see more once training camp continues and preseason continues. It's funny, with preseason, you could tell who's going to start by who's not playing. So we'll be able to tell August 1st by who's not playing who's going to start with Anthony Everett. And look, he finally had an impressive year last year, was able to take over for Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters when they were injured on the Ravens. Smaller frame, but a speedy guy. You could watch highlights of him keeping up with Tyreek Hill in coverage, and he had his first interceptions of his career just last year with 3 interceptions. Very impressive stuff for the speedy cornerback, Anthony Everett. And I expect some good things out of him, to be honest. And this was a signing that just happened the other day. And the contract details just came out this morning, actually, by Aaron Wilson from Pro Football Network. It's Jayden Brown, former Titan, linebacker. This guy is pretty decent in coverage, and I think he's probably going to – he's definitely going to make the 53-man roster, and he could even start. I mean, he's going to give people a run for their money, especially if we're playing in that 3-4. I know you need an extra linebacker sometimes. There's a Jayden Brown, 1 year, $1.25 million. About half of it's guaranteed. So, I could say the same thing about Demarcus Robinson, where I would say, don't be surprised if we move on from this guy, if it doesn't work out. But this guy has a lot of bonuses in his deal, and I think we believe he's going to play. And he's just talented. I mean, you look at his career so far. He's made plays. He's great in coverage. He's what we need, honestly. He's a linebacker, obviously 6 foot, 226 pounds. I messed up and put an S there, but don't mind that. Still in his 20s, and I think he will give Diablo a run for his money. I think he'll give Perryman a run for his money, but we needed linebackers anyways. He's going to also compete with Mika Kaiser, and Mika Kaiser, I believe, is going to be more your thumper, your run stopper type of linebacker, and he's only making $900,000 and something a year with no guarantees. So expect Jayden Brown to seriously play and perhaps start, and he definitely wants to start with all these per game active roster bonuses and whatnot. So yeah, I Titans fans, honestly, they were sad to see this guy go. They think he's really talented, and when you look at the tape, you look at how he plays, you look at how he's able to find the hole where he's able to read these gaps really well. And I mean, I think he's just impressive. I think he's impressive in general. Duran Harmon, $1.2 million. Half of that's guaranteed, so a similar deal to Jayden Brown, similar deal to Demarcus Robinson. But all people who maybe we can move on from, because we've technically only given this guy $76,000 so far. So that's all we're really on the hook for currently. But then you'd be on the hook for the half a million guaranteed there. So could move on from him just like Robinson. Could move on from him just like Jayden Brown. However, Duran Harmon, I think, was brought into play. And when you look at his career, I don't have his snap count here, but look at this guy's snap count. He spent some time with Atlanta and Detroit before being with New England for a significant amount of time. And this guy always plays. This guy always has 500, 600 snaps. I know a typical starter is around 900 snaps, but this guy plays a lot. He contributes to teams. And Patrick Graham is familiar with this guy, also has some history with him. I think it's going to work out, and I think he's going to play. So this is an old overlay where I had contract unknown, but the contract details were released just this morning, $1.2 million with that $500,000 guaranteed. So, I mean, expect him to make an impact, and then it makes you think, like, what is going to happen to Jonathan Abram? Because especially, look, I know Patrick Graham sometimes has a safety in the slot, sometimes brings a safety at linebacker, but typically in the nickel, there's 2 safeties, and then you have your slot corner and your 2 outside corners. So, and especially if we're in the 3-4 or the 4-3, we're only going to have 2 safeties out there. So, I mean, I really do think this guy might take a lot of snaps from Jonathan Abram. So it's gonna be a position battle for sure. I mean, who's going to be better? And this guy has more familiarity with the scheme, so it's going to be tough competition for Jonathan Abram versus Duran Harmon coming up this season. And Kyle Pecco also was signed, defensive tackle. We've been needing more defensive tackles. We have Bilal Nichols, who has that 2-year deal. We really didn't have anybody else, though. Vernon Butler was also signed. But Kyle Pecco, a lot of Broncos fans really like this guy. And he hasn't played too much. He's splashed here and there. Out of 157 snaps, though, to get 5 QB pressures was very impressive last year, man, to be quite honest. And he's cheap, $1 million in cap, a $50,000 bonus. So also somebody you definitely don't have to keep, right? But still young, and look, we need depth in the interior defensive line. We didn't bring back anybody. Solomon Thomas went to the Jets. Quentin Jefferson went to the Seahawks. Darius Philon, we didn't extend him. So we definitely need defensive tackles. And so Kyle Pecco is a necessary depth that we need. And expect him to stay on the team. Expect him to stay on the team just because we do need depth there. And outside of him, Vernon Butler, and Bilal Nichols, we really didn't make any moves at interior defensive line. So I anticipate that this guy will make the 53-man roster. And that's good because it's a cheap deal. just talking about Bilal Nichols, more details have come out about the contract. You have, $4.3 million cap hit with $7.1 million in dead cap. Therefore, this guy's going to be on the team for the next 2 years. He's basically going to be on the team for the next 2 years. I highly doubt he's so horrible that we move on from him next year and only save, a few million dollars, because it'll probably be $3.5 million in dead money. Therefore, next year you wouldn't save a significant amount of money if you did cut him. This guy's impressive, young, 25 years old, on the up. Dave Ziegler describes a lot of these signings as ascending players, right? Young guys who could get better, and people really dug this guy out in Chicago with the Bears. So expect him to make a splash. Expect him to start for this team and be our defensive tackle. So if you want a defensive tackle jersey, a big D lineman, go buy Bilal Nichols jersey. That's what you got to do if you're a Raiders fan for the next 2 years. Straight up. And honestly, 31 pressures each year at defensive tackle, it's pretty good. And he didn't play all the snaps, too, at the same time. So it's really impressive for Bilal Nichols. We extended Brandon Parker. He was set to be a free agent. This guy's really athletic for his size. 6'8", 305 pounds. It's pretty insane how quick he is for that size. And we know he hasn't had the greatest success with the Raiders being our right tackle. But this coaching staff, Coach Priscillo, Dave Ziegler, they think they could get something out of Brandon Parker. $2.6 million guaranteed in a $3.5 million deal. That means that this guy is definitely going to make the 53-man roster. And this guy seriously will compete probably with Jermaine Illuminor, Leatherwood as well, for the right tackle position. And he might win. I mean, who knows? I know there's some versatility with Illuminor and Leatherwood. So even if Brandon Parker did win this right tackle job, Dave Ziegler has said that perhaps, and so has Josh McDaniels, that perhaps Leatherwood or Illuminor will play guard, and they could play guard and compete there. So Brandon Parker, he's a little different. He's only going to compete for the right tackle position. Expect him to maybe have an edge based on just how much they've invested in Brandon Parker so far. And I still have no update on the Jermaine Illuminor deal. We'll get that for you guys when we do, but I know it's a 1-year contract for sure. So let's see what happens. I mean, Brandon Parker, Raider Nation kind of turned their back on this guy, and he might actually seriously play. We mentioned Mika Kaiser earlier at the top of the show. Might make the 53. There's not a lot of investment there. $990,000, 1-year deal, no guarantees. We'll see what happens. This guy hasn't played that much outside of that 2020 year. When he had 559 snaps, and I've been saying Fresno were the Fresno Raiders. Devontae Adams, Derek Carr, Fresno State. 559 snaps in 2020. Is this a coincidence? Is this meant to be? Maybe this is meant to be. But 6 feet, 244 pounds. Expect this guy to primarily be somebody who could defend against the run for our team. I don't expect to see him out there covering tight ends and running backs. But we'll see what happens with Mika Kaiser. By the way, if you want to see what happens out there in your life, you want to save some cash, right? Go out there, go to some events, sporting events, concerts, whatever. Use SeatGeek. And if it's your first time purchasing, use promo code WiFiWillie. You save $20. So if you're going to go to a basketball game, maybe a baseball game over the summer, maybe you're going to a concert, maybe you're going to go, check out a Chris Rock stand-up comedy concert. If you go and do that, you can use promo code WiFiWillie when you use SeatGeek. Save $20 just like that. This is I'm a brand ambassador for SeatGeek. This is my only sponsor right now, and it's because it's a great product. I mean, I am choosy with who I allow to advertise on my channel, and this is a legit company, and this is a great deal for you viewers and for Raider Nation. So go ahead and use that code WiFiWillie and save some cash on SeatGeek right there. So let's get into some of our other stories we have going on. Josh McDaniels gave some clarification about OTAs, optional training activities for the Raiders. Phase 1 of the Raiders OTAs will begin April 11th. I believe that is the second week of April. Yeah, obviously it's past 7, so yeah. And then there's going to be a voluntary non-competitive camp the week of April 25th, kind of near the draft, a few days before the draft. So once we get to the point where we can actually do phase 2 and be on the field and start learning, then phase 3 and start doing some football, I think the goal is just to keep making progress all the way through the day in June and when we're done with the OTA program. So, Josh McDaniels gave some thoughts and clarified the OTAs. So basically, we're all going to finally meet up and finally be able to talk football April 11th, all the veterans, all the people that we signed, all the free agents. And then April 25th, all these people are actually going to hit the field, do some things, run some drills. We're going to actually learn a little bit more about these players. And then Ziegler and McDaniels go to the draft. And I know they have a 3rd-round pick. They don't have a 1st-round pick and a 2nd-round pick. But maybe, depending on what they learn April 25th, maybe they might start seeing some glaring problems and think, okay, we need to trade up here. We need to make some moves here. So we'll see what happens. I mean, and also the draft is in Vegas, so you have to wonder, maybe even just for, and this is the cynic in me, maybe even just for media PR reasons, you trade up into the 1st round while the draft is in your city, right, to create some more hype and make the fans happy. I mean, that's just, probably won't happen. I'm just throwing that out there. Nobody else is going to tell you that. But that could happen, right? That could be part of the decision-making process, especially if there's a guy you really like, too, and there's a clear need you have on your team. But we'll see what happens there. One thing that's funny, we talked about Duran Harmon earlier, the new safety who's going to compete, with the people we have on this team right now, Jonathan Abram primarily. But this is a funny story that happened a few years ago. Amazon's facial recognition technology mistaked Duran Harmon for a mugshot and thought he was a criminal. And hey, Duran Harmon since then has kind of spoken out against facial recognition technology. There's certain states in the East, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say their name on this channel, that use this technology. And it's kind of repressive, right? And so it's interesting to see Duran Harmon, somebody who's a wealthy, famous football player, could even be harmed by this facial recognition technology and mistaken for a criminal, even though he's not. So it's unfortunate that stuff happens. And I thought that was really cool that Duran Harmon, took this opportunity to go out there and try to advocate against governments and corporations being able to use this technology that might be obviously not that effective and invasive in your private life too. So interesting to see Duran Harmon do that. And I just thought that was a funny story that you guys could check out and read about Duran Harmon, one of our players on this team. The NFL has changed some things, man. They changed some rules. Overtime, they have approved the modified overtime rule for postseason only. So both teams in overtime will get a possession. There's no longer sudden death unless the team that gets the football first scores a touchdown and completes a 2-point conversion. So overtime in postseason, what you're going to see a lot is the team that scores the touchdown first is going to try to go for a 2-point conversion, right? I mean, you're going to see that a lot. Either way, if both teams, go 7-7, then it becomes sudden death. So people are talking about Chiefs versus Bills, Josh Allen, if he would have had a crack at it. So basically, if he would have had a crack at it, Josh Allen goes down there and scores a touchdown, ties the Chiefs in overtime, then Mahomes gets the ball, and then it's sudden death again. So to me, you're never going to fix this problem. And my problem with this rule change is you're trying to avoid the fact that the NFL has shifted their rules in a certain way where it benefits the offense. It is significantly harder to play defense these days in the NFL. And you've seen teams adjust. Teams don't invest in their defense as much as they used to. Teams used to always invest and have a balanced split between the offense and defensive side of the ball. Now it's become 70-30, sometimes 60-40. Outside of edge rusher and cornerback, teams really don't invest that heavily on the defensive side of the ball. And I think at the end of the day, if PI wasn't called so easily on defenders and, offensive players weren't able to easily get away with offensive PI, illegal blocking down the field, then I don't think you have this problem. I think the defense would be able to actually stop some teams in overtime, right? Defense needs to play better. Well, the NFL needs to let them play better because the NFL makes it too hard to be a defensive player. And I think it's unfair to people who build their careers around defense for the NFL to have these rules where it's just so easy for the offense to score. And it's no coincidence. I mean, it's no coincidence that, offensive players and quarterbacks are scoring at a higher rate, higher than they ever have before. It's because of the rule changes and the way they call the game. So I don't think this will ever solve that issue. However, we're not going to have many issues this year because we're going to have a good team this year. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, went through some contracts. Let me know what you think I missed. Drop me some thoughts on some of these players that we've seen so far. And let me know how well you think the Raiders are going to do this year. My name is WiFiWillie. Peace out. This is the Raiders Rundown. And check out my other videos. I got new stuff coming out almost every single day. Like this video if you watched it all the way through. Peace out, man, and have a good one.